The next gentleman in the success story interviews is Christopher Lambert. Chris speaks on Measure 11 in Oregon. So briefly, Measure 11 went into effect in 1995, and what it does is present fixed sentences with no possibility of parole or early release, which is why Chris says fixed time. It used to apply to 16 different offenses, but has since been changed to 21. It encompasses crimes such as murder, assault, and rape. Again, it was great to listen to another success story, and I hope everyone enjoys it as much as I did. With that, hey all, and welcome back to There's Danger Here. I'm Leilani, and again, this is the interview with Christopher Lambert. So I've been doing stories on those that have been successful after coming out of incarceration. So normally we do kind of a little bit about early life, what led you up to incarceration, and then I'll bug you with questions as you talk, if that's okay.
Yes.
All right. So tell me a little bit about your early life.
I grew up in North Portland, between North Portland and Northeast, but majority North Portland. And I say that because my mother stayed in um, North Portland, but she also worked. So when she worked, I had to go to my grandmother's house, which stayed in Northeast Portland. Um, so me and my siblings traveled in between. So that's why I
Hmm.
say it's a split between North and North Portland, but majority North Portland. I
Yeah.
grew up in a great home, full of love. No problems on the home front. Yeah, I grew up without my father, but that was never like an excuse that I wasn't loved or anything like that. It just kind of something I accepted. And instead of worrying about my father not being there, I just appreciated my mom, taking care of me and my siblings without no excuses or anything of that nature. Um, I went to school. I did great in school. Um, I began to play sports. Thrived in track and field and basketball. Through those sports, I met a lot of people. Went to Portsmouth High School or middle school. As I was going to middle school, um, things took a change when my grandma was involved in a domestic violence um, situation that ended her in the hospital and ended up her being paralyzed from the waist down.
Oh, wow.
Um, so when my grandmother had her accident, after she got out the hospital for a long period of time, she was in the hospital for about a year and a half or so.
Hmm.
She came to live with us in North Portland as my mom built out my grandmother's house so it's wheelchair accessible and things like that. So once my grandmother house got it, situated, we moved from North to Northeast Portland. When moved, I moved away from my community center. I moved away from a lot of my friends. I moved away from mentors. And now we were staying in Northeast Portland at my grandmother's house. And a lot of my mom is a loving person and she loves hard. And my grandmother went through that thing. And my mom sacrificed a lot. And also, like a lot of the love me and my mom once or had, it was going towards my grandmother. Not the love, but the energy was going towards my
Hmm.
grandmother, caring for my grandmother. So that allowed me to move around in the streets a little bit more. And Northeast Portland was a little bit more fast paced versus North Portland. I ended up falling into the street culture. Um, the street culture has a heavy presence and a heavy pull on you. Um, uh, I always say I didn't jump off the porch. I walked gracefully off the porch because I just didn't. I didn't just jump in the game. Like I sat back and watched some things and figured out how I just wanted to get some money and I did good in that area. But obviously, with selling drugs comes guns, and with guns come gangs. So a lot of that, although I just started off wanting to be a hustler, everything else simultaneously came with it. Um,
Did that
So
start in your high school years
yes,
or?
in my high school
Okay.
years, yes.
Okay.
And it was during those times that I was hanging with some guys, and they had altercation with another group of guys, and it was an ongoing kind of like high school beef. Um, Nobody like dying or anything like that, but just like fights, maybe and just things like that. So one day I had an altercation with an individual, and some things happened. A shooting took place, and I got arrested for the shooting. I was ended up sentenced to 20 years in prison
How
for
old were
it.
you when that happened?
I was 18 at the time.
Okay. So sentenced as an adult.
Yes, under Measure 11,
Mm-hmm.
which is still alive and kicking today. And I don't think the information about it has been passed around enough so people know the severity if getting caught up in the system and being charged with any of those crimes listed
Mm-hmm.
under Measure 11, you will be gone for a minimum of 5 years with no good time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah.
So you were 18. Um, did you finish high school before this happened, or were you still in high school at that time?
Uh, I was damn near kicked out of school at the time because, like I said, I was hustling, and I was selling weed at school, and you
Sure.
know hanging around the school, and people coming up to the school to meet me, and I was just too much for the school, and the school let me kind of. I ended up running away from home, so I was staying with somebody who wasn't really pushing me to go to school, or nobody. I feared that if I don't go to school, I was going to be disciplined or anything. So I did what I did, and
Mm-hmm. So when you first got incarcerated, what was your mindset going in?
oh shit, it's real. I
Yeah.
mean, it's real. Like I knew a little bit about Measure 11, but
Mm-hmm.
I most definitely didn't know about consecutive sentencing. So when I learned that I can get 90 months for this person, 90 months for this person, 90 months for this person, 90 months, and get it ran bow legged, I
Mm-hmm.
realized the severity of what kind of harm I had caused.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it took me a minute to like settle in and understand that we had a long ride ahead of us, but we also put up a fight because I ended up getting a lawyer,
Mm-hmm.
and you know I come from a culture where I'm not even finna tell him myself, so I always just said it wasn't me.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about it, me saying that it wasn't me, I really for a long period of time in prison, I ran with that lie that it wasn't me, and it made my time harder in prison. But when I took restorative justice classes, I was able to take that accountability, and then my time was easier, and I was able to see things more clearly. Yeah, I know I kind of jumped, but
That's all right. How much time did you end up getting?
so I end up getting 20 years for attempted murders.
Okay.
However, while I was incarcerated, um, uh, I was charged with bribing a witness and tampering a witness with my lawyer as my co-defendant. Come to find out, I mean, of course, like I said, when I got arrested, I said it wasn't me, and I was
Yeah.
actually with somebody at that time, so I encouraged them to like be heavy on that. I was with them, and they were heavy
Mm-hmm.
on. They told the police they was with me. Told my lawyer they was with me, and anyways, my lawyer and my um one of the witnesses ended up getting close and having a sexual relationship, and when it broke off, it came out, and she came forth and said, I told her what to say, and he paid her the money I gave him for her to come testify, and things like that. So I ended up getting an additional 3 years.
Okay.
So not only did I have to do 20 years hard, that 3 years was going to be the hardest.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you said that, you took a class and it kind of changed your mindset. Was that early on in your sentence, or did it take a while to get into anything
No,
like that?
it took a minute. It took a while for me to really get tired of just sitting around on the yard hustling and things like that. Where I was like, man, I need to be a better person. I started reading and started having different conversations with people I usually wouldn't talk to, just working out, pouring into myself, tapping into my, Bible and just tapping into having different conversations with my friends. And I just wanted to be better. So I just started striving to be better.
Okay.
It took me about
What
it took me 10 years or so to get there
about 10 years? Okay.
for me
Do you
to
think
shed
any
all
of
the
that
dead skin.
was do you think any of that was just kind of growing up? Because I mean, you were young when you first got in, you were only 18. I think studies have shown that, I mean, our brain doesn't mature until we're in our mid 20s. So that
I
would have been
think,
about that time.
yeah, it most definitely was growing up, but it was just another part of that was just being tired, just tired. Like seeing cats come inside the penitentiary, supposed to be from gangs. And when you're in a gang, you're under this illusion that the homies is gonna look out for you when you're in jail. And then come to find out, you got people coming to jail, and their homeboys is not looking out for them. And sometimes the individuals that's in there end up sometimes from opposite gangs end up looking out for those dudes
Hmm.
because it's just when you come to prison, you know, a little bit of it is gang politics to the side, and it's just all about being black. But so
Hmm.
me seeing that part of it, like people coming in jail and other people taking care of them and their homeboys not come, it just made me like just feel like what we call the game, the life. It just felt like it was tainted, and
Hmm.
I just wanted something different.
Hmm. So you said penitentiary. That means that you were at the Oregon State Penitentiary?
Excuse me, institution. I was at EOCI for about
UOCI. Okay.
10
Eastern.
years.
Okay.
Yeah, I was there for
Okay.
10 years.
While you were over in Eastern, did you t partake in any like, did you get your GED? Did you go to college classes? How accessible was that to you if you did?
I did take my GED. That was very accessible. After that, I feel like there was nothing else to strive for. If you wanted to get in college class, it was very, very, very limited space, and it was very friend recommended.
Hmm.
Um, I feel like it's a catch-22 because it's like in these college classes in prison, like if I'm just getting to prison and I want to take college classes, I wouldn't be able to get it because like all the lifers will have the slots,
Hmm.
you know. Um,
Hmm.
so it'd be I don't think they look at that kind of situation to understand like there's no room for people not taking away from lifers, but having some slots available for people that's doing short periods of time that want to learn this college and that's going to get out and do whatever and maybe reach back into the penitentiary and talk about how important prison education is like
Hmm. Hmm. Other than not having slots, so classes were not being easy, what else do you think were like limitations to getting you to like allow you to grow while you were there?
um just being in the hole I was just tired.
Yeah.
That'll force you to look at I mean I always say like being in a hole forced me to look at me and deal with me and really figure out which way we going.
Yeah.
Um,
What do you think that like institutions could do better to help people kind of grow and be more successful when they transition from prison back out to society?
to be all the way 100, I feel like they need to allow more community members inside the prison.
In regards, like, in what way for community members? Like, anybody come see you, specific, like,
No,
groups?
like groups, just breaking up the monotony of the prison, of these programs the prison give that's been the same since the beginning of time. Uh, and I say
Yeah.
that because a lot of my growth came from volunteers, people
Mm-hmm.
who wasn't getting paid to come in, like people who just genuinely cared about me, like
Mm-hmm.
genuinely invested in me, like made sure I got in college classes and like taking life coaching class and restorative justice classes. Like those are volunteers. Those are not DOC people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and people, I don't care how hard a person is. Like when you see somebody come and help you just genuinely,
Mm-hmm.
you kind of tap into a different side of you, and then you see like, damn, somebody care about me, and you see how far that little bit of care goes.
Mm-hmm.
So allowing different community groups, members, people to have classes, want to have classes, want to provide for, work readiness, like allow the community to come into prison and just be a part of that transition because you always hear like these individuals that's locked up will be your neighbors one day. And when they be your neighbors, it would be better just for community to already go in and build these relationships so when they do come out, they can have that community support.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, speaking of getting out, what year were you released?
So I was released in 2022. I was granted a clemency by Kate Brown, and
Okay.
she granted my release on December 22nd, 2022. I was out. I served a
So
little bit over 20 years.
that's just coming off the back of, kind of COVID and isolation, which I feel
Ooh.
like would probably make it harder getting, like, when you get out, the transition. How was your transition? Did you have any support groups, or they just give you a bus ticket and say, like, there you go, we'll see you on parole? Like, how did that go for you?
Well, let's talk about that COVID part in jail because that
Yeah.
surviving COVID in jail. Oh, I was determined I could do anything if I got through that. I feel like I could get through anything. That was the worst time. That was
Was
the
it?
time we couldn't have visits. That was the time we all in jail had to lean on each other. We had to come together, demand masks. Nobody used the phone. Like, had to really come together to look out for each other because we were starting to see how serious that stuff was, and we was understanding that. And we ain't going nowhere. The police bringing that in here, so we was like making demands. So yeah, that really grew me up. But it was rough, very
Yeah.
rough. Um, yeah. So when I came home, I've always had a strong support system. I always had a strong support system. So when I came out those gates, I was greeted by my family, like my mother,
So
my
yours
sister,
was
my
like a personal rather than like the prison didn't set you up with anything type of situation.
no. We had been planning for 20 years. We knew one day we was coming home.
Yeah.
So yeah, the prison had already, did enough by giving me the opportunity to participate in the things that really did make me a better person. I didn't need nothing else from them.
Yeah. So once you um got out and had a wonderful family reunion, where did you go from there?
Um, I sat back and I applied to every job I could. I knew I was very understanding that I was getting a job.
Hmm.
I could not see myself, working in prison for $30 a month and then come home and not work for $20 an hour.
Hmm.
Like, so I was determined. So I most definitely began to work um, odd jobs until I landed the jobs that I felt was in alignment with what I'm passionate
Did
about.
having did having a record affect your ability to get jobs when you first got out?
Yes.
Yeah.
And And I intentionally read up on certain jobs. Like I drove, box trucks when I came out of prison because I knew I could work there and there wasn't gonna be no hurdles.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah.
Um, was there anything, let's see. We talked about kind of the classes that you went through that were beneficial, and running
I
odd jobs. How did you get into what you do now? And how is it going for you?
um how I got to where I am now is, like I said, I had volunteers in prison that offered classes and poured into me and believed in me. But I also had friends in prison that I had met in prison who invested their time and energy in to get me into college classes through the University of Oregon. Put me in positions of speaking for the legislation about how important prison education is. These all these different steps were giving me the confidence to use my voice in spaces I people that look like me would never be in. Um, Having a friend listening to the radio one day and tell to this guy named David Jefferson and him speaking some deep stuff, and my friend introducing me and David having great conversations, to me saying, damn, I want these conversations I'm having with David. Like everybody in the jail need to hear them.
Hmm.
So I bring that to my volunteer and we make it happen. And I bring an inspirational panel in the jail. And now the conversations I'm having, I'm sharing it with the other prisoners. And that gave me a sense of like, dang, that was easy. Like, let's do it again. I
Hmm.
did, and I did it again. And it just gave me like this strong sense of leadership that I didn't know I really had. And my ability to put things together and my ability to bring people together and my ability and understanding that I don't want nobody to have to go through the prison
Hmm.
system like I went through. So me coming home and working as a intensive case manager and working with the most high risk gang members in Portland, helping them and guide them to a better life. Everything just it was just set up by people just believing in me and me seeing my actions come to light and having a real impact in the prison and understanding that if I bring people together to do some positive stuff, things can be great. And in Northeast Portland, now that's what's been going on with the night sports I've been doing.
Hmm.
Um, it's built off community and it's for the community. Um, so yeah.
Um, so what you work in Portland. Um, is it two different, like you do the gang, where you deal with that in Portland and then you go into the prisons? Is that two different elements or is that all part of the same entity?
So
Is
that's
one
all.
volunteering, one?
No, so that's all under my full time job as an intensive case manager.
Okay.
And then outside of that, um, we're just getting involved as I'm the regional service director of Rose City Jam, which is a network under the Oregon Justice Network um, nonprofit out of Eugene, and with me being on the regional service director of Rose City Jam, my thing has been bringing community together. So we rent out the Boys and Girls Club for one night a month, and we provide free haircuts. We provide free food. We provide resources. We provide a safe place for kids to play basketball, play sports, and to connect. We provide a mobile studio. We provide space, girls' room for the girls to talk self care, beauty, and things like that. And we've been doing this for the last. This we just did our third event, and we had over 120 kids sign up.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's been fulfilling, and it's just all off an idea
Hmm.
of wanting to create a safe place for kids and want to better give back to my community. So I'm able to provide this space to give back to the kids, but I'm also able to provide a platform for other individuals to give to their community. So it's all full circle. I'm super appreciative of working with the kids and working with those in my community to make the event such a community event.
Hmm. Well, that all sounds amazing. And you sound like you did really well. I mean, so this, I've done a couple interviews now, and it's, I like highlighting kind of the more success stories that rather than focusing on kind of the bad parts. I talk about recidivism a few times and how that can be, people can fall into it pretty easily,
Mm-hmm.
getting out. So it's good to hear, your story and the fact that you were able to be successful. Once you got out, would you attribute most of that to the family and community, or is there anybody else that kind of really was that shining light that helped you get into that?
It was my family and my community, but it's also my friends that's locked up. Like
Hmm.
I got to get them something to see other than what they normally able to see.
Hmm.
So that's why like I do speaking engagements, and I tell my buddies like, "You've been to prison, man. You have a story. Like
Hmm.
you can get paid for your. You ain't gotta go rap. Just tell your story, bro. Your story got some kind of impact."
Yeah,
So I'm just trying to create a platform for my friends when they come home, they can have a side gig of telling their story or just giving back to their community.
sure.
I always say, man, somebody got to take the lead, and I feel like I've been taking the lead or coming out of prison and just hitting the ground running and not,
That's so good.
yeah, and I don't know me, but trying to bring everybody with me.
Sure. Um, the question I like to ask, if especially since you went back to Portland, you went back to kind of your home, your old stomping grounds. Was any of that difficult for you, to make sure that you didn't get back into any situations that would have, kind of brought you back into arenas that would have been negative?
Um, no, because I had kind of already established this new walk of life of mine, and it was very loud. So, your real friends is gonna support your walk. You
Hmm.
know, not to say like I'm some vicious individual in the streets, but
Hmm.
I come from that street life, and all my friends come from that street life, and I independently chose to do something different with my life, and my partners they still support me, and that's huge. And I'm appreciative of individuals supporting the positivity versus you know going to do some stupid stuff.
Sure, sure. Is there anything that I missed asking you that you wanted to kind of bring to the light?
Not off the top. I'll just say, like I said, at Rose City Jam, we're doing some great things in Portland. We're doing some great things, and it's all from the heart. And I'm super appreciative of the things that's taking place at Rose City Jam and Oregon Justice Network. Like, we've got some great things going on, and got a documentary coming out here soon, and
Oh, good.
I'm excited about that and working
What's
on other
the
things.
easiest way for people to see kind of what you've been doing or getting into? Do you have any like Instagram? Is there any shout outs to any websites, anything like that?
Yeah, on Instagram, Rose City Christopher. That's my personal page. For the business part or the nonprofit part is Rose City Jam. You can
Okay.
see all the clips and upcoming events that's going to take place, especially for the spring break. And professionally, I'm on LinkedIn under Christopher Lambert.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, thank you for taking the time to do an interview with me and hang out and tell me all about your story. Again, I love hearing kind of the successes coming out of the
yeah,
prison system rather than all of the negatives.
absolutely. And it's not just me. Like it's a bunch of guys out here that's really killing it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Well, I don't want to say killing it, but it's a bunch of guys out here doing the dang thing. It's a bunch of guys
I like
doing
that.
that thing.
Sure. All right, Chris. Well, thank you again for taking the time to hang out with me.